Hey, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir.
I hope. Okay. So I think we are done with epithelium, connective, no, muscle tissues, nervous tissue. Okay. So today I want us to look at uh, connective tissue. Then we'll be done with the topic on epithelium. So let me share the screen. I'm not going to do any recap of the previous lectures. But then we define tissue as a group of similar cells that perform a particular function. And we identify four main tissue types. The epithelium that lines cavities form glands. The muscle tissues that are special for contraction. The nervous tissue that transmit nerve impulses. Okay, so today we are going to look at the connective tissues. When I finish and there's time, then probably we'll look at something else. Now, connective tissue is the most diverse and abundant tissue in the body. Very diverse. Your bone is a connective tissue, ligament connective tissue. Even fat, you have fats as adipocyte as connective tissue. We have cartilages as adipose tissue. We have blood even as what? Connective tissues. We have aponeurosis as connective tissues. So connective tissues are indeed the most diverse and abundant tissue in the human body. Now, when we look at epithelium, we said that epithelia, the cells are closely packed and they are avascular, but then innervated. Now, in connective tissues, the cells are widely spaced apart with abundant extracellular matrix. Another thing is that connective tissues are vascularized, except of course the cartilage. Okay, so that is the uniqueness about connective tissue when you compare it to epithelium. But where can we find connective tissues? We can find connective tissue beneath the epithelium. Here they are saying below the basal lamina. The basal lamina is what we also call the basement membrane. Now the connective tissue beneath the epithelium is what we call it the lamina propria. Then in a stroma of organs, when you look at an organ is made up of two components, the parenchyma and the stroma. The parenchyma and the stroma. The parenchyma is the functional unit of the organ. The connective tissue framework is what we call the stroma. So we are saying that connective tissue are found in organ stroma. They form the internal framework, maintain organ shape and integrity. So if you take something like the liver, for instance, as an organ, the hepatocytes, which are the liver cells, are the parenchyma. Because of course, if you look at the function of the liver, is the hepatocyte that is doing all those functions. The connective tissue aspect of it is what we are calling the stroma. They are found between and around organs. They form the capsules of organs. So the liver capsule, the kidney, the spleen, even the capsule of the testes, they are all connective tissues. Between muscles, vessels, and nerves, when we look at the muscles, we talk about the epineurium, endoneurium, perineurium. When we look at the nerves, we talk about endoneurium. We say endomysium, perimysium, yes, for muscles. But for nerves, we're talking about endoneurium, perineurium, and epineurium. All those ones we said are connective tissues. They connect bone. So we also have tendons and what? Ligaments. They are connective tissues. So we have cartilage, we have bone, we have blood, we have nerves, we have adipose tissues. Within the bone marrow too, we even have these what connective tissues. So these are places where we can find connective tissues. Now the word means connect. So if you are looking at blood, it's connecting. If you look at tendon and ligaments, they are also connecting. Now, in terms of function, the functions are enormous. Of course, because they are diverse, you can look at each structure or each type and talk about the function. So we can look at transport. And so on our transport and storage, transport, we're talking about the blood. Storage, we'll be talking about the adipose connective tissue. We said that they form the stroma. So they form the package where the field spaces that you find an organ. In terms of support, you can talk about the bones. In terms of repair and defense, within connective tissue, they are cells. They do all those things. So generally, once you know the different types of connective tissues, of course, you can deduce the functions of connective tissues. Now, when we're looking at epithelium, they said that because epithelium readily divides, of course, there can be abnormal cell division. So we talk about tumor. And we said that tumors that are associated with surface epithelium are called carcinomas. And tumors that are associated with, what they call it, malignant tumor associated with glandular epithelium, we call it adenocarcinomas. So connective tissues to cells, they can divide, except so from few that have limited ability. So if you look at the term sarcoma, is a type of cancer that arises from what? Connective tissues. So if it's bone, you can talk about osteosarcoma, cartilage, you say chondrosarcoma, then fat, you can say liposarcoma. So that is just for an overview of the connective tissue. Now, let's look at the composition of connective tissues. Why are we saying cartilage are connective tissue? And why are we saying ligaments are connective tissue? Or blood is a connective tissue? Of course, there will be something that they share in common. So connective tissues are made up of three components. They are made up of ground substance, fibers, and cells. They are made up of ground substance, fibers, and cells. The ground substance and the fibers constitute what we call the extracellular matrix. They constitute what we call the extracellular matrix. Now, so let me use this one here, a schematic diagram to represent what we are looking at. So imagine this one to be the connective tissues. So within the connective tissues, there are cells. They are cells. So you are seeing some of the cells that you find connective tissue. So they are adipocytes. They are eosinophils. We have neutrophils. We have plasmocytes. Of course, plasmocytes are from B lymphocytes. They produce antibodies. We have mast cells. Mast cells produce histamine, which dilate small blood vessels. So they also even have heparin. So they are produced by what? Mast cells. Heparin is for you're talking about blood coagulation. Then we have macrophages. Macrophages. So there are several of these cell types. We have fibroblasts. This one is the fibroblast. Fibroblasts. In fact, fibroblasts are the most abundant connective tissue cells. They are the most abundant connective tissue cells. So we have several cells within the connective tissue. Now, the cells of the connective tissue, let me just move straight so that I just talk about those ones. The cells of the connective tissues, we can group them into resident cells and wandering cells. Resident cells means that, of course, they are fixed. Then we also have the wandering cells. They move about. So these are some of the cells that you can find. You can find fibroblasts, as we mentioned, the most abundant connective tissue cells. They synthesize the extracellular matrix. The extracellular matrix is the ground substance and the fibers. We have adipocyte, that's fast storage and storage. We have macrophages involved in phagocytosis. We have matter, as I explained, producing histamine and heparin. We have reticular cells. We have the mesenchymal stem cell. We have parasite. Parasite, when we're looking at smooth muscle, I mentioned parasite, that they are associated with capillaries and post capillary venues. You see that they can differentiate into other connective tissue cells. And I even said that they can even differentiate into smooth muscle cells. We have melanocytes as also a resident cells. Then we also have dendritic cells, which are antigen presenting cells. So all these cells are cells of the connective tissues. They are resident. Now here, macrophages, we are saying fixed. Fixed in the sense that if you look at the alveoli, there are macrophages there. If you look at the liver cells, there are macrophages that are fixed there, the kappa cells. That's where they are not found elsewhere. So under wandering cells, so we can still talk about macrophages. Here we are looking at those ones that move about. So all these things that you are seeing here are basically components of what? White blood cells. Monocyte, basophils, eosinophils, neutrophils. So all these are the cells of the connective tissues. Now, connective tissue cells, they exist in both immature and mature form. And you can use these surfaces to understand whether the cell is mature or immature. Now, so if it ends with blast, then it means that it's an immature cell. So fibroblasts, osteoblasts, chondroblasts, they are immature cells. They secrete the extracellular matrix. I told you that fibroblasts are the most abundant connective tissue cells. And I said that they secrete the ground substance and the fibers. In bones, they are produced by the osteoblasts, not fibroblasts. They are produced by then in cartilages, they are produced by the chondroblasts. Then we have sites. Sites are the mature connective tissue cells. So they maintain the what? The matrix. Then we have, if it ends with class, that means they break down the matrix. So you have osteoclasts, we have chondroclasts. So they break the matrix. Here, remember that the matrix is what we are calling the ground substance and the fibers. So those are the connective tissue cells. So connective tissues are made up of cells. So we look at the cells. Then they're also made up of fibers. They are also made up of fibers. And there are three main fibers that connective tissues are made up of. We have the reticular, let me start with this one, collagen fibers. Collagen fibers give tensile strength. And they are made up of proteins called collagen. And collagen is the most abundant protein in the human body. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the human body. They are very strong. And there are several types of collagen fibers. You let me mention the three types before I talk about it. Collagen fibers. Then we have reticular fibers. Then we have elastic fibers. You have elastic fibers. As the name suggests, elastic fibers are stretchable. They are made up of protein. The main proteins is elastin and some glycoprotein that we call fibrillin. So if you look at the skin, it's made up of these elastic fibers. It gives stretches. The lungs, when it inflates, the penis, when there's a erection. So that those one have what? These what? Elastic what? Fibers. Then of course we also have reticular what? Fibers. Reticular fibers. Now reticular fibers form something like a meshwork. You see that they interconnect. They interconnect. So let me see what I can do something. Okay, so that's about the collagen fibers. And these collagen fibers, they are lots. They are lots. I think about 28 different types of collagen fibers have been identified. And I think I told you that collagen is the most abundant proteins in the human body. It means that it's the body that produces these fibers. Remember, we said that these fibers are produced by fibroblasts. In cartilages and bones, they are produced by the chondroblasts and the osteoblasts, respectively. Now, there are several types of collagen fibers. So you can see that there's collagen type 1, collagen type 2, type 3, and as I told you, several of them. I think they identify about 28 or so. Now, if you look at collagen type 1, you see that they are found where? In the connective tissue of the skin, the bone, the tendon, the sclera, the organ capsule. They account for 90% of body collagen. Collagen type 2 are found in what? Cartilage. And collagen type 3 are found in what? Loose connective tissue of organs like the liver, the spleen, and all these things. Now, collagen type 1 is very, very strong. So it provides resistance to force, tension, and stretch. So that's why you have them here. Because the body produces these collagen fibers, when you can have problem associated with what? And defective collagen fibers. So if you look at this condition like osteogenesis imperfecta, you see the problem has to do with what? The body inability to produce proper collagen type 1 fibers. So we know where we can find those collagen type 1 fibers. So you see that in such people, they have thin skin, weak tendons, they have progressive hearing loss because the ear ossicles are type 1 defined bones. So there's small bones in the middle ear, the ossicles. So definitely they'll be going to be progressive hearing loss, brittle bones, because there's lack of these proper collagen type 1 fibers. So you can see that there are a lot of diseases that are associated with these collagen fibers. Now, even if you look at this one here, if you look at keloid, so this one has to do with what? Of course, when there's a cut and it is healed. But then when you have abnormal prolonging of these collagen fibers, then you have these keloid forming. Okay. Then even look at here, scurvy, which we know to be lack of vitamin C. And this is because vitamin C is needed in collagen synthesis. So once you lack vitamin C, of course, then you have so Keeliod have already explained it. Overgrowth of scar tissue due to excessive collagen production. So these are some of the even rheumatoid arthritis has linked to these collagen fibers. Then I also said that we have elastic fibers. Hey, we have elastic fibers. They are made of protein, elastin, and some glycoprotein fibrillin. This one too, there's this condition here. So I've shown you where we can find them. There's this condition here. Where is it? Look at Marfan syndrome. Marfan syndrome. So you see that everything is stretchy because the body is not able to produce a proper fibrillin. So that is Marfan syndrome. Genetic disorder affecting connective tissue strength. So here it has to do with the elastic fibers. So definitely you see the limbs are all very, very long. This one, there's definitely going to be problem with the elastic fibers. If you look at blood vessels, the aorta. So definitely going to be problem because of the body inability to produce proper fibrillin. Then finally, we have reticular fibers. Reticular fibers form a meshwork. They form a meshwork. Let me show you an image of what I mean by a meshwork. Let me see. So this one is something like a meshwork. See, they interconnect. So that's a meshwork. So it's like a sponge, like a sponge. So they connect that way. Elastic fibers are not like that. Okay. Now, another it's interesting. The reticular fibers are actually type 3 collagen fibers. Reticular fibers are actually type 3 collagen fibers. So please, these are the connective tissue fibers. So we have the elastic fibers, we have reticular fibers, and we have collagen fibers. And I've seen that reticular fibers are essentially collagen type 3 fibers, and of course some glycoproteins. Now the last component is this, what we are calling the ground substance. The ground substance is just the material between the cells and the fibers. So the material here between the cells and the fibers are what we are calling the ground substance. That we are calling the ground substance. So they are the non-fibrous component of the cellular matrix. They fill spaces between the cells and fibers. They can be viscous, they can be clear, they can be fluid, they can be gel-like, they can be firm, depending on the connective tissues type. So if it's bone, of course, they will be firm. If it is cartilage, of course, they will be. If it's blood, it will be the ground substance will be what fluid-like. Now, the ground substances, what it does is that it stores water and electrolytes. It's a medium for diffusion of what nutrients and acts as lubricants. Now, liking connective tissue components, we have this crude way of looking at it. So liken it to something like, let's say you are making Gary soakings. It's not a very good aid. Let's say you are making Gary soakings. So here, what we are saying is that the fibers are the Gary. Just like here, we have different types of the Gary. The elastic, the collagen fibers, and the reticular fibers. Then the cells, liken it to be granules. The granule to be the cells. Just that we have different cells, types. Then the ground substance here is, let's say, the water, the milk, the sugar, which of course will essentially dissolve. Like those ones will be the ground substance. Those ones will be the ground substance. So they support the cells and the fibers. They bind them together. They provide medium for exchanging substances. Not only that, in fact, they are involved in tissues development, proliferation, and stuff like that. These are the components of collagen, the ground substance. This one, let me simplify it this way, as I've already done. So just some carbohydrate sugar mixture. So let's put it that way. We are talking about glycoaminoglycans, proteoglycans, multi-adversic glycoproteins. So that's why I'm saying that I guess liken it to some carbohydrates, sugar, carbohydrates, what do you call it? Proteins kind of complex. Let's look at it that way. That one is more biochemistry, so I'm not going to. I've been seeing some give this okay. I was seeing some charts, so I was wanted to know what was there. It looks like there's something else not related to what we are doing. So here, I was just trying to look at the glycoaminoglycans. So these are the types that we have. And let me show you something why So you can see that there's what? Chondroitin 4 what sulfates. Chondroitin 6 what? Sulfates. Now, look at it. The chondroitin 4 sulfates are what? Fundamental component of organ found in articular what? Cartilage. So you realize that when, let me go online and just show you something. So you realize that if I mention the uh, so look at this one. So chondroitin what? Sulfate. We said that they are ground substance, they are components of what? Connective tissue cells. And look at it. It's found in what? Connective tissue, including bones, cartilage, tendon, ligament, and skin. It's commercially produced either synthetic or from natural what? Sources, such as cow, shark, or cow cartilage or algae. You know that they sell these ones as what? As supplements. They're used in nutritional supplement in the treatment of what? Osteoarthritis. So you see that some people tend to sell these ones as what? As kind of what? Supplements. Sell them as supplements. So you see this one here, they are selling it at what? As supplement. Definitely, it's going to be a bit what? Expensive. So yeah, that is why I'm saying that this one, we are not looking at what? The chemical what? Structure of it. So that's what they are actually looking at. That's not what we are looking at. So see here, it's something like this. Okay. So just know that these are, we have a lot of these connective tissue what? Ground substance. They have these ones as the ground what substances, and there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. So these are the proteoglycans that we have. These are then finally we have the glycoproteins proteins that are also what available. But as I said, just take it as the material between the cells and what and the fibers. They are the ground what substance. And remember what I said, the fibroblasts, they give rise to the extracellular matrix, which is the ground substance, and the what? The fibers. In bones, it will be the work of osteoblasts. It will be the work of what? Osteoblasts. When I'm giving a notes to you, I'll just remove these ones from the nose. Even this one, I'll move them from your nose. I think this one is enough. This one is enough. Once you understand the points that we are making. Okay. So all these things, this one is just how under the microscope they look like. But as I said, these ones will be removed from your nose. But don't forget connective disease that are associated with what? Connective what? Tissues. Disease that are associated with connective what? Tissues. And this is something that you should know. And this is something that what you should also what know. Then examples of these cell what types. Okay. So with that one done, let's look at how we classify connective what? Hey, I've seen Russian guy. Hey, Asemo. Benjamin Aka, today be today. Yeah, Asemo. Are these people here? No wonder someone is saying these were rather distracting the class. So please, let's concentrate. Because when I see the chat increasing, I was thinking that maybe probably some people are asking questions or they need clarification, not knowing that they are talking about something else. maybe you can, when we are done, you can discuss those ones among yourselves. Okay, so that is about the connective tissue, the uniqueness of connective tissue, the functions of connective tissues, where we can find connective tissues, and the composition of what? Component of connective tissues. Now, we are going to look at the classification of connective tissues. Here, the one or two statements that I make, that those are the things that I want you to take notice of. They are classified based on the amount, the very amount of cells, fibers, and ground substance. Okay, so this is how we classify them. We have embryonic connective tissue. Don't worry so much about the classification. I mean, no one's going to ask you those things. It's just for you to just understand. I'm saying that because you may have different classifications. So we have the embryonic connective tissues. Then we have connective tissue proper. Then we have specialized connective tissue. Some may not talk about special connective tissue. They say connective tissue proper, then a supporting connective tissue and fluid connective tissue. So the fluid connective tissue is blood and the lymph. The supporting connective tissue is cartilage and bone. Now, why do we consider blood as a connective tissues? Because blood is made out of the ground substance. The ground substance here will be the plasma. The cells, we already know what the cells are. But the fibers in blood, the fibers are actually soluble. It's only become insoluble during injury. So where fibrinogen will be converted to what? Fibrin. That will help in what? Stopping what they call it? Forming blood clots. So that's why we consider blood as a connective tissue. It's a fluid connective tissue. Cartilage and bones are supporting connective tissues. Then we have embryonic connective tissues. As the name suggests, embryonic connective tissue. So embryonic connective tissues, we have two types. We have the mesenchyme, then we have the mucous connective tissue. That once again, I just remove this one so that maybe this one will be enough. So there's a mesenchyme connective tissue and there's a mucous connective tissue. Where I want you to, so in a mesenchyme connective tissue, it will have all those connective tissues components, cells, fibers, and ground substance. The most important point that I want you to note is that mesenchyme connective tissues are found in the embryo. They are found in the embryo. And they give rise to all other types of connective tissues. They are found in in early embryo. They are pluripotent cells. In other words, they give rise to almost all the connective tissues. So that is what you need to know. The mucous or mucoid connective tissues are found in the umbilical cord of the fetus. They are found in umbilical cords. Now, these, they are found in the umbilical cord. It's mucous because of this jelly-like ground substance that it has. Jelly-like ground substance that it has. That's why we are calling it that way. So, if you look at the umbilical cord will have what do you call it? The umbilical arteries and the umbilical vein. So whatever else that we have is what we are calling the mucous connective tissue, the mucous connective tissue. Okay, so I think this is the example that you should know, but they are also found in these other places. Now, of course, that is why they can also be, you know that there's stem cell research ongoing where they are looking at an individual as umbilical cord, because there are some stem cells there. That means these cells can even differentiate to become cartilage cells and liver cells and all these other cell types. So if scientists can engineer so that these stem cells that you find in the umbilical cord, they can directly maybe produce the liver cells. Of course, then you have the liver. So that in future, when you have liver problem, no one has to donate the liver. You have own stem cells that will find your umbilical cord will already differentiate to form what the liver cells. So they just give it back to you. So that at least human beings, you kind of have some spare parts. So remember that under embryonic connective tissues, we have the mesenchyme found in the early embryos where they become all the connective tissue types. Then we have the mucous connective tissues that we find in the umbilical cord. So these ones I've just removed them. They are there. You don't need a histology, but then when you look at the microscope, this is what we see. You can appreciate the gel-like that you find in the mucous connective tissue. Now, this is where we need to pay attention. The connective tissue proper, because I've already talked about the fluid connective tissues and supporting connective tissue. Then I also talk about the embryonic connective tissue. So now let's look at the connective tissue proper. Now, remember I made a point that connective tissues are made up of, we are lacking into making Gary sockets. So if the fibers are more, if the Gary are more, then we have a loose connective tissue. And if the Gary are more, then we have the dense connective tissue. If we have fewer Gary, then we have loose connective tissue. So we can group connective tissue into loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. Loose connective tissue that they have fewer fibers, abundant ground substance. Then dense connective tissue, they have more fibers and less ground substance. So here, I just want you to know where we can find them. So we have the areolar connective tissue, adipose connective tissue, and reticular connective tissue. In fact, anytime you say areolar connective tissue, or anytime you say loose connective tissue, you are referring to areolar connective tissue. So understand that. So we have adipose loose connective tissue. Normally don't say that, we just say loose connective tissue. But when you say areolar connective tissue, it's synonymous to loose connective tissue. So the connective tissue that you find around blood vessels, nerves, and connective tissue that lie beneath the epithelium are areolar connective tissue. Connective tissues that you find in the skin, the hypodermis of the skin, the breast, around organs, that is adipose connective tissue. The connective tissue that form the supportive framework of spleen, lymph nodes, bone are the reticular connective tissue. Then we have dense connective tissue. In the dense connective tissue, we have dense regular. In dense regular, dense irregular. Dense irregular means the fibers are randomly arranged, providing tensile strength in multiple directions. So within the dermis of the skin, then the periosteum is connective tissue around bones. Pericardium is the connective tissue around cartilage. The capsule of organs, the liver capsule, the tunica albuginea of the penis, all those capsules are made up of dense irregular connective tissues, and even the submucosa of the gastrointestinal tract. Then the fibers can also be arranged in one direction. So that will be a dense regular connective tissue. So they are found in ligaments. Ligaments are dense irregular connective tissue that connect a bone to a bone. And tendon, so that's how we define a tendon. A tendon is basically, you can say it's a connective tissue that connects a muscle to a bone. But then if you want to be very specific, you say a tendon is what? A dense regular connective tissue that connects a muscle to what? A bone. The fibers are arranged in what? Then we have elastic. Elastic means they will have a lot of these elastic fibers. And the elastic connective tissues, we can have dense irregular elastic. That is why you find in elastic cartilages, elastic arteries, like the aorta. And that's a dense irregular. Then we have dense regular. Dense regular like dense, regular, elastic. Now, let me also say here, like here, if you say dense, irregular, it means that the fibers that we are talking about, there are more of the collagen fibers that will be there. And here, there are more of the collagen fibers that will be there. But here, what we mean connective tissue. And within there, you'll find these what? The cells that we talk about. So they play an important role in what? Inflammation. They play a very important role in inflammation. So we said that they surround capillaries, they surround blood vessels. So that's loose connective tissue. Then they are the one that fill the spaces in organs. Then there's white adipose. Remember, I'm just look at them one after the other. So we look at the areola. So we're looking at adipose and the reticular. So adipose connective tissue, we have the white one and we have the brown one. The white adipose tissue is what you normally find in what? Adults. The brown adipose tissues are found in what? Infants. They are found in what? Infants. They are found in infants. These white adipose tissue, of course, so they are functioning energy storage, insulation, and what? Cushioning. You should also know that if your fat cells produce what? Hormones. Your fat cells even produce what? Hormones. Now, why do we have brown adipose tissue? We are saying brown adipose tissue are found in fats. Why the brown color? Brown is due to one. Let's see something. In infants, the way they regulate their body temperature is not well developed. You know, in adults, you shiver, and when you shiver, you generate what? Heat to keep the body warm. But in infants, they don't have that one. They don't have that one. So what happens is that they have brown adipose tissue, and these brown adipose tissues have a lot of what do you call it? The fat cells. They have a lot of mitochondria. Even in the mitochondria, you know that there are some pigment what inside. So those pigment is what is giving the what the color. So with this, a lot of mitochondria, you know that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So when a fat is metabolized, instead of producing energy in the form of ATP, they rather produce more heat to keep the body warm. To keep the body warm. In adults, although we are saying that they are present more in infants, we have some few. We have few places where you can find this brown adipose tissue. So this one is what you see under the light microscope. Let me use, because we are not doing histology much, let me use this one. So this is how a white adipose tissue looks like. You see, they only have one large vacuole, and this one will store the fat, and that is why we say that they are unilocular adipocytes. They have made up with unilocular adipocytes, just a single vacuole with lipid droplet. In brown, see them, they have several of them. So we say that they are numerous small lipid droplets. So we say that they are multi-locular. Now, I've already explained that this one is more for energy storage, insulation and stuff. Whereas this one is more for thermogenesis when it comes to temperature regulation. Now, not long ago, I don't think it's about 10 years, not long ago, they also identified that there's another type of adipocyte that's actually in between the two. That's in between the two. We call them the Brit or the bench adipocytes. They are intermediate between the white and brown. And this is the interesting part. It can convert from white fat under certain what condition. And that one too is very what important. That one is very what important. Like when you are exercising, the skeletal muscle cells produce a hormone that we call erythrin. And this one is the one that helps to convert white adipocyte to this bench type adipocyte. And that one is very important because in that case, it helps you to even reduce your what? Your weight. Okay. So this one is just some kind of also a summary here. The bench are scattered amount of white adipocytes, sometimes generate what heat. The brown one are found in fetal life and infancy, but they are also in adult. They are also located around the what vertebrae, then above the clavicle. But this is the one that is very common that you find in adults. And this is the fat that you are very familiar with. So just know that we have 3 different types of what fat cells, and the way they work differently: a white, brown, and a bench what adipocyte. Then of course we have the reticular connective tissues. Here, what it means is that the cells will have the connective tissue will have more of reticular fibers, and that is what you find in the lymph nodes, the bone marrow, and the spleen, which are lymphoid organs. And also you find what in the liver. They are. So if I ask you, where can you find reticular connective tissues? You said I find in the lymph nodes, bone marrow, and the spleen, which are lymphoid organs. And that's where you find them. So this one is the structure of the spleen. So these will be the fibers. The fibers is going to be more of these ones here. Then you have the cells. You know, the spleen will filter what? Blood. So you have these ones. Then the lymph nodes will filter what? Lymph. So you have these things, these fibers that looks like a meshwork playing that, helping play that role. So this one is just like the way, this is under dense regular. See the fibers, they are arranged in one direction. So we say that the tendons, the ligaments. So this one here is a tendon, connect a muscle to a bone. This is a ligament, connect a bone to a bone. They are all dense regular. Then there's this flat tendon that you are seeing here. The flat tendon that you are seeing here is what we call aponeurosis. So this is an aponeurosis. Aponeurosis are also dense regular connective tissue. And here this is dense irregular. See, the fibers are in different direction. So the cartilage around the connective tissue around cartilage, connective tissue around bones, the capsules of organs, the dermis of the skin, they are all dense irregular connective tissue. So we are seeing here at this this is the dermis of the skin. So the connective tissue that we have here, what we are saying is what dense, what irregular, what connective, what tissue. So this one, then this is, look at here, the fibers. So this is how the aorta looks like. So you have a lot of these what elastic what fibers. So I think I've already talked about blood being what a connective what tissue. So that is about how connective tissues are actually what classified. Any question? Okay. So I'm looking at the chart and someone is talking about what of the kidney. So in the kidney, we have a capsule. So once the kidney has a capsule, the capsule will be made up of dense what irregular connective what tissue. So because that's what we said, that the capsules of organs, so the capsules of organs are, so the kidney has a capsule, so that one will be dense what irregular connective tissue. Then if you're looking at the within, there's a connective tissue that we say that fill the spaces. So you have a lot of what loose connective what tissues. They package what organs. So you have a lot of these loose connective tissues. Oh, excuse me. Okay. But of course, there will be other connective tissue types that you can find there. Now, hey, Bismarck. Bismarck has raised their hands. Bismarck.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I was
Now, if you
asking
say
of
capillaries,
I was asking of the kidney because of the mesh-like nature of the glomerulus. So I wanted to find out whether the glomerulus is also made up of reticular fiber tissues because of its mesh-like nature.
the glomerulus.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So the glomerulus, yeah. So to have this reticular heart, connective heart tissue.
So it means the kidney has a dense regular tissue, a loose fiber.
So it's like it depends on where you are looking at, what you're looking at. So that's why I say that if you look at the kidney, now even this one that we are talking about, even the spleen that I'm talking about here, that we are seeing that is a reticular connective tissue. The spleen has a capsule. The spleen has a capsule. So that capsule is not going to be, what do you call it? Reticular connective tissue is a type of loose connective tissue. A type of loose connective tissue. And a loose connective tissue, we have reticular. But then it has a capsule. The capsule rather will be dense or irregular. So it depends on, it's not something like when I say that you can find it this way, I'm not more or less talking about the entire thing. Some of the entire thing can mean something like you are talking about a tendon. So that one there is a kind of a thread. Let me put it that way, connecting a bone and a bone, ligaments. So that one there, you may not be able to tell the different what types. But if you look at the kidney, where you are talking about the capsule of the kidney, where you are talking about the nephron, where even where we have the renal sinus, someone will also say there's an adipose connective tissue because they are fat there. So it depends on which part of the kidney that you are talking about. So when you narrowed it down, and you were very, very specific, then that's why I'm saying that in that case, that one is what is a reticular connective tissue. So yes, indeed, looking at the part of the kidney that you're talking about, you can talk about different connective tissues types that are there. Is that one clear? Is that one clear?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, because they are even blood vessels within the kidney. Now, and please pay attention to this particular one. So for what I have just talked about, the most important thing is at least just get the principle right. So that if you're looking at some organs, it's not as if you're looking at the liver, then you're thinking, is it muscles or what is it made up of? So that's basically what we are talking about. Are they made up of? What are they made up of? And that's what we try to establish. But if you go further and you talk about something like let's say you're talking about the stomach, then the stomach, that one there, you are talking about epithelium, you are talking about connective tissue, you are talking about muscle tissue, you are talking about nervous tissue. Yes, so that is how that one is going to be. Because the what is lying the chamber of the stomach, it will be epithelium. Then beneath the epithelium, there will be a connective tissue, which are saying is a areola or loose connective tissue. Then you are going to have a submucosa, which is a connective tissue. You are going to have a muscle layer, which of course is muscular tissues. And there are nerves that are also there. So those ones will be what? Will be nervous tissue. So we are saying that our organ is made up of tissue types. Tissue types. Okay. Now, pay attention to this thing. So we are going to look at what we call something that we call tissue membrane. Membrane. A membrane is an epithelium and or connective tissue function as a functional unit. So that's it. So let's say you are making you want to bake. When you want to bake, you will line whatever the bowl with a tissue with a paper. So that one is a membrane. And that one is a membrane. And here we are saying that a membrane can be composed of an epithelium and or connective tissue. So it's from a sheet that covers structures or line cavities. There are 4 types of membrane. So A, B, C. Okay, then where is the D? The D will be the skin. So there are 4 types of membranes. So there's cutaneous membrane. The cutaneous membrane is your skin. That covers the body. Your skin is made up of epidermis and dermis. The epidermis is connective. The epidermis is epithelium. The dermis is connective tissue. So that epithelium and the connective tissue, we are saying that it's function as as one unit. So we call it a membrane, and it covers the body. Then there's a synovial membrane, which you'll find in synovial joints. Synovial membrane is not epithelium; it's just connective tissue. So that's why I say that So synovial membrane is just a connective tissue. And of course, synovial membrane will secrete what? So synovial membrane line the cavities of synovial joints. So they are made up of epithelium. They are made of connective, not what? They don't have any epithelium. And what they do is they secrete synovial fluid. So we know that one. And I will talk about where is it? Cutaneous membrane. The epidermis is the epithelium and a stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. The dermis is connective tissue. Now, the way I've written it down here is it's not entirely the same. Because if you're looking at the dermis, let me just look at here. The connective tissue here, just beneath the epithelium, although there's the dermis, the epidermis is what we are saying is what? The epithelium. The connective tissue here is a loose connective tissue. But the connective tissue here, so it means that the dermis can even be grouped further. Just the one beneath the epithelium will be loose. But the one deep to it is dense. So in fact, when we do the skin, we divide the dermis into 2 parts, the papillary layer and the reticular layer. So if I really want to be that specific, I would say the reticular layer of the dermis. And somehow you even tell us that beneath the dermis, there's hypodermis, so there's a fat, which is a loose connective tissue. So understand where I'm making. So whatever it is, it's a connective tissue. I shouldn't just try to be specific. I would just say it's a connective tissue. The epidermis is what? Is the epithelium. So what do? They serve as a protective barrier, giving protection. You know, there are other functions of the skin. It is these 2 types that I want you to pay attention: mucous membrane and serous membrane. And this diagram says it all. So there is a mucous membrane. There's a mucous membrane, and there's a serous membrane. So let me look at the one that you are familiar with. The one that you are familiar with is the serous membrane. The serous membrane lines the ventral body cavities. They line the ventral body cavities. The ventral body cavity, we talk about throughout the and the pelvic wall cavity. So the serous membrane that lines the abdominopelvic cavity, we call it the peritoneum. The serous membrane that lines where the lungs are located is called the pleura. Then the serous membrane that is related to the heart is called pericardium. So the serous membrane lines body cavities, ventral body cavities. So you have we have the peritoneum, we have the pericardium, and have the pleura. So a serous membrane will be made up of an epithelium and, of course, an underlying connective tissue. I told you that all the membranes, they are all made out of epithelium and connective tissue, except the serous membrane, which is basically connective tissue in nature. Serous membrane produce serous fluid, and the fluid kind of help in lubrication, reducing friction. So, I don't have here. So that is serous membrane. That is serous membrane. Then we have mucous. In fact, if you don't want to say serous membrane, you say serosa. Serosa. Then we have mucous membrane. Mucous membrane lines cavities that are exposed to the outside environment. So from the respiratory tract, they are lined by what? Mucous membrane or mucosa. The respiratory, the GI tract will be lined. The urinary tract will be lined. So as long as it's exposed to the outside environment, they will be lined by what? A mucous membrane or mucosa. So mucous membrane line body cavity that open to the exterior. The oral cavity, the alimentary canal, the respiratory tract, and the genital urinary tract. So they are made up of epithelium, and they are made up of what? Connective tissue. Now, many mucous membranes secrete mucus. Most of them secrete mucus. So if you look at the alimentary canal, in the GI tract, you look at the intestines, you look at the rectum, you see that they produce mucus. If you look at the respiratory tract, you see that they produce mucus. Because in those places, they are goblet cells that produce mucus. But of course, so not everywhere that you have them produce. So once they open to the outside environment, it's a mucous membrane. So you should understand what mucous membranes are, what serous membrane are, what cutaneous membrane, and what synovial membrane are. I'm not going to talk about this one. So that is that. There is something, I don't know whether I taught it under epithelium. So let me check your notes whether I made mention of those things. Let me check. I'm just going through your notes because I believe that probably I said something about membranes over there. Okay, it looks like, oh no, it should rather be maybe introduction to anatomy. Sometimes we talk about membranes there. So let me check whether I said anything about membranes so that whatever I said under membranes over there, I'll go back to that one and just complete that aspect. Okay, yeah. I think I did talk about membranes over there. So let me just go straight to that part and just do a recap over there. Yeah. So this is that. So we have membrane. So I think I use this one. So this one, this is the serous membrane or the serosa. So the important serous membrane are the pleura, the peritoneum, and the pericardium. Yes. And the serous membrane, they are divided. It's one continuous layer, so it's lining. But depending on where it lines, we have two parts. So we can use this one to just as an example. So you have an inflated balloon, you make a face. You see, part of the balloon will cover the face, and part will not cover the face. So there is a viscera and there's what? A parietal. So here we have the pericardium. This one is a serous pericardium. The blue one, which is lining the wall, is called the parietal pericardium. And then it goes, then thins and cover the what? The heart itself. So that one will be what? The visceral pericardium. Then this one to the same thing. Lines the wall will be the parietal pleura. Then when it thins, they cover the lungs itself. Then that will be the viscera. So the same thing. The one that lines the wall is the one that made what blue is the parietal. And the one that covers the organs is called viscera. So here you see what is lining is the parietal pleura. One is covering the lungs. That shiny thing that you see covering the lungs is the visceral pleura. Between the two, the visceral and the parietal, you have a potential space that we call serous cavity. So if it's the pericardial cavity, lungs, pleural cavity, abdominopelvic cavity, peritoneal cavity. And I think if I did say that one, I told you that you have fluids containing, the cavity contains small amount of serous fluid. Too much of the fluid in is what we call ascites if you're looking at the abdominopelvic cavity. In the pleural cavity, we call it pleural effusion. And pericardial cavity, we call it pericardial effusion. You can see a lot of fluid, and this fluid can compress the heart. This one you see like putting pressure. Look at the lungs. It become very small over there. This one usually due to liver problem. So these fluid must be drained. So they are serous membrane. They line the the ventral body cavity, and they produce serous fluid. And we are saying that it's made up of an epithelium and a connective tissue. Made of epithelium and a connective tissue. And let me see whether I have some questions. I didn't understand anything. Someone should help me after here. Please go back to the tissue membrane. Please, you say only synovial. Yeah, I said that. I said that membrane is epithelium and connective tissue. Epithelium, connective tissue. I'm saying that synovial membrane only have a connective tissue. There's no epithelium. Of course, that one makes sense because look at where the synovial membrane is located. So I said that there are membranes. There's the skin, the cutaneous membrane is covering the body, and it's made up of epithelium and a connective tissue. What part is the epithelium? Is the epidermis. Which part is the connective tissue? Is the dermis. That's what I'm saying. Then the synovial membrane, which produces synovial fluid, is connective tissue. There's no epithelia. It lacks epithelium. Then there is serous membrane, which lines the ventral body cavities. So, and what are they? There's pleura, and we know where we can find the pleura. There is pericardium. We know where we can find the pericardium. Then there's peritoneum. We know where we can find peritoneum. Then when I'm saying that those ones that lines the cavities of the body connected to the outside environment. And what are the outside? You see your nose, this one. So the respiratory tract, the GI tract. Then if I'm thinking about units. So the urinary tract, semen will come out. The genital tract. I'm saying that they are all lined by what? A mucous what? Membrane. And in some places, this mucous membrane, they produce what? Mucus. And I gave a typical example at the GI tract and the respiratory what tract, that they produce what? Mucus. They produce what? Mucus. So basically that is all. There's nothing in I'll try and simplify these ones when I give the notes to you. Now, let's look at cartilage. Cartilage, just pay attention to the point that I'm making. So we know that cartilage will also be made up of cells, ground substance, and fibers. Ground substance and fibers. But what type of fibers do you find in cartilages? Type 2 collagen fibers. So that one you should know. Then one thing about cartilage is that they have a lot of what? Water. And a lot of water. So that gives them the resilience and ability to withstand compressive forces. Cartilages are avascular and annular. They lack blood vessels and they lack what? Nerves. They lack blood vessels and they lack nerves. Now, the problem with that one is that they heal slowly and has limited capacity for what? Repair. So that is the problem with not having blood vessels and not having what? Nerves. Because the blood vessels are supposed to send the material that will be needed in what? The repair. So when there are no blood vessels and no nerves, of course, then so even if you are you want to put on earrings, definitely once it's going to the cartilage, you don't feel any pain. Once going to the cartilage, there will be no blood. The blood that you are seeing is just the blood coming from what? The dermis, because there's a skin around. But then I've told you that cartilages, there's a connective tissue that's surround cartilage. We call it perichondrium. And I think I said it. Where can we find connective tissue? The dense irregular connective tissue. The periosteum of bone. The perichondrium of what? Cartilage. So around cartilages. So let me see whether I can have an example. So if you are looking at here, this one is a cartilage. This is a perichondrium. There are no blood vessels in the cartilage here. There are no nerves in the cartilage here. But you see, that connective tissue, the perichondrium, contain blood vessels. So there can be diffusion so that the cartilage cells, but then you see that it is not like blood vessels passing through. So in that case, you see that the healing, when there's damage to cartilages, the healing is not what? It's not proper. Hey, this knows I have to do a lot of work on it too. So nutrients are supplied to cartilage cells through diffusion, either from capillaries in adjacent connective tissues known as perichondrium, or from the synovial fluid in the joint cavity. So that is how those ones will be nourished. Cartilage cells can give rise to tumors. So you can have benign chondroma and have malignant chondrosarcoma. In fact, the important point I want you to note here about cartilage is the fact that they are avascular and they are annular. So that point is very, very important. Then a second important point, the fact that they are made up of type 2 collagen fibers. And although they are avascular, there's a perichondrium which have blood vessels. So this one. Now the next one is the cartilage cells. The cartilage cells. The cartilage cells here, I will simplify it further for you. We have chondrogenic cells, chondroblasts, chondrocytes, and chondroclasts. Chondrogenic cells, remember I already explained the meaning of blast, the meaning of site, the meaning of class. What are chondrogenic cells? They are stem cells. They are stem cells that you find in the perichondrium. What do? They differentiate into chondroblasts. What are the chondroblasts? They are immature cartilage cells. What do? They secrete the ground substance and the fibers. What are the chondrocytes? when chondroblasts mature, they become what? Chondrocytes. At what point are we saying that they are mature? When they become surrounded by their own what? Matrix. When they become surrounded by their matrix, you see them in some tiny space. That tiny space is what we call lacuna. We call it lacuna. For example, look at here. This is a cartilage cell. So at this point here, we can say it's chondroblast. But you see here now, it's surrounded by, you see this thing that is around it. So now they are surrounded by their own matrix. So they are leaving a space, a small space. That space is what we call lacuna. So at this point in time, we say that it has matured. So the point that I'm making is that there is a chondroblast. There's a chondroclast. There's a chondrocyte. Chondroblasts are immature cells. Chondrocytes are mature cells. And I'm saying that when do they become mature? When they are in a lacuna, a space, when they become surrounded. Then there's a chondroclast. Chondroclasts are cells derived from monocytes. What they do is that they break down the cartilage matrix. They break down the cartilage, the cartilage matrix. So there are some stem cells. If you look at here, there are stem cells that are in the perichondrium. These stem cells give rise to chondroblasts. These chondroblasts are the ones that will secrete the fibers and the gland substance. Then they are saying the chondroblasts are immature. When they become mature, we call them chondrocytes. Then the cartilage will have to be broken down. So there's what we call chondroclasts. So they break them down. They break them down. You appreciate this point very well. Like, I'm not going to talk about this one. Let me just talk about something like this one. Should I even talk about it? Let me leave this one. Because cartilage, they grow. I wanted to talk about how cartilage grow. But I'm not going to talk about those ones. So let's just look at the 3 types of cartilages and where we can find them. And this one, I'm going to use this image here. So there are 3 types of cartilages. There are fibrocartilage, elastic cartilage, and hyaline cartilage. They call it hyaline because under the microscope, they have this kind of glassy appearance. So they call it hyaline cartilage. So this is hyaline cartilage, had this glassy appearance. So please remember that there are 3 types of cartilages, and cartilages are made up of type 2 collagen fibers. You should know where we can find the different type of cartilages. Now this one is elastic. This one is hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is the most abundant cartilage in the human body. As a fetus, you are made of entirely of hyaline cartilage. The articular cartilage. When I say articular cartilage, I'm talking about the cartilage. When I do it this way, maybe you may not appreciate it. So let me use the one that is a diagram. So we are looking at hyaline cartilage. They call it it's what they call it, blue. So all those places that you see blue are all hyaline cartilage. So they are showing the thyroid cartilage, the trachea, the bronchi, the bronchus. They are hyaline cartilage. The articular cartilage between bones, the cartilage that covers bones is called articular cartilage. Then the costal cartilages that connect the ribs, associated with the ribs, they are hyaline cartilages. If you look at the nose, it's a hyaline cartilage. Then we have elastic cartilage. They call it what they call it green. So elastic cartilage, you find them in the what? The external what? Ear, the pinna of the ear. Then the epiglottis, you see, it has this elasticity. The epiglottis is also this one. Don't worry, the way they name it is wrong. Epiglottis, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, all the cartilages together make up the larynx. So it's not as if you say this one specifically is the thyroid cartilage. So if you look at the point that I made here, the thyroid cartilage is a hyaline cartilage. It's a hyaline cartilage. The epiglottis is also the thyroid cartilage is a cartilage of the larynx. The epiglottis is a cartilage of the larynx. So when they make it like they say larynx like this, it's not as if all the cartilages of the larynx are hyaline. No. The most important one that I want you to know is the thyroid cartilage, because that one you can feel it. Then the epiglottis, which you're also very familiar. The epiglottis is elastic cartilage. Then you know that between the middle ear and your throat, there's a cartilage there. Between the middle ear and your throat, what we call the auditory tube or the eustachian tube. That one is elastic cartilage. Then the external auditory meatus. So that one too is an elastic cartilage. Elastic cartilage because they are elastic fibers. So here, the only place where they colored green for you to know it, they are saying epiglottis, and they are saying the external ear. But then I'm saying that when you go further, the external auditory meatus, that one too is elastic cartilage. Then the tube that connects the middle ear to your throat, that one too, there's a bony part and there's a cartilage part. That cartilage part is an elastic cartilage. Then the last one is the fibrocartilage. It's the strongest of the cartilages. It's the strongest of the cartilages because they have a lot of type 1 collagen fibers, and type 1 collagen fibers are very strong. So you find them here. You see where they made it red. Between the vertebrae, the intervertebral disc, that one is a fibrocartilage. Then the pubis symphysis is a fibrocartilage. The meniscus is a fibrocartilage. Now this image here is showing us the intervertebral disc. This is the intervertebral disc. So it has an elastic cartilage. This is the meniscus. This one they colored it. This is a meniscus. Is a fibrocartilage. Intervertebral is a fibrocartilage. Now this one here, I was hoping that they will show it. They didn't show it, but then I think I can talk about it. They call this one that what they call it, the labrum. The labrum. This side here is kind of, we are looking at the hip joint. The hip joint. So you see that there's a cartilage here. That cartilage is very strong. It's also a fibrocartilage. When we do joints, I think I'll mention it. So cartilages, you should know where we can find what cartilages. Cartilage has limited ability for repair due to avascularity of the cartilage. Repair include periocondial grafts, cell transplantation, insertion of artificial matrices, and application of growth factors. Then another point that is very important. Hyaline cartilage is susceptible to degenerative aging processes. So you can talk about also arthritis. So we look at that one. Once again, when we look at what? The joints. Hyaline cartilage and fibrocartilage, they can calcify. Let me repeat. Hyaline cartilage and fibrocartilage, they can calcify. They can calcify. Elastic cartilage do not. Elastic cartilage do not. You realize that sometimes, over time, as a result of aging, you see some people, this one here can become a bone. The xymphoid process can become what? A bone. When they calcify, then it means that they are deposition of what? Minerals. And with time, they can become what? Bony. The elastic cartilage do not undergo that. The blasts are the immature cells. So you say that, please, I'm confused on the cartilage. The breaking down by condyles for multiplication. So which one is the weakest cartilage? Which one the stronger cartilage? I miss it. So I am saying that just the few points I want you to know with cartilages are: one, you should know the types of cartilages. You should know the type of cartilages. There is hyaline cartilage, there is elastic cartilage, there is a fibrocartilage. Those are the types of cartilages. And you should know where we can find them in the body. That is another one. Two, they are all made up of type 2 collagen fibers. Fibrocartilage are made up of also an addition type 1. And we know that type 1 cartilages are very strong. Type 1 proteins are very well. Collagen fibers are very well. Oh, type 1 collagen are very, because I told you that there are several types of collagen. Type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, type 5. So the one that you find in fibrocartilage, apart from the fact that they have type 2, they have a lot of these type 1. So they are very, very strong. So your intervertebral discs and the pubis symphysis, they are type of fibrocartilages. Then another thing is that both hyaline cartilage and fibrocartilage, they tend to calcify and they may even ossify in old age. They will become bony sometime over time. The elastic, no. Your elastic cartilage, no. So I was using an example like you look at a xymphoid process. When you turn around 40 years, then become kind of a bone. Sometimes you are intervertebral discs. You see that the fibrocartilage is supposed to provide some elasticity, but sometimes with time, bones it can't even bend. It can calcify. So that's another point that I made. Then with respect, then I said that they don't have blood vessels and they don't have nerves. Although they don't have blood vessels, I said that they have a perichondrium. They have a perichondrium. This perichondrium thing, I say more. This perichondrium, they are found in hyaline cartilage and elastic cartilage. And I say more. They are found in hyaline cartilage, except the articular cartilage. And they also find in elastic cartilage. And they are absent in fibrocartilage. I think I have a table here. Perichondrium, they are present in hyaline cartilage, except articular cartilage. They are present in elastic cartilage. Then they are absent in fibrocartilage. This table, it says everything that you need to know. Then concerning the cells, what I was saying is that we have a stem cell. The stem cells, they have the ability to undergo mitosis, then differentiate to another cell types. So they are the one that differentiate to chondroblasts. Then these chondroblasts, as the name suggests, is ends with blood, so it's immature cells. So they are the one that give rise to ground substance and the fibers. Then when they mature, we call them chondrocytes. Then I'm saying at what point are we saying that they are mature? When they are surrounded by what? Their matrix. So that small space that they are living in is what we are calling a lacuna. Then what are chondroclasts? Chondroclasts, what they do is that they break down. They break down the what? The matrix. And you get what I mean by the chondroclast. When you appreciate why I'm saying that the how they break down. So this one here is just about how cartilages they grow. Within the perichondrium, we said that they are the stem cells there. So when cartilages are growing, they grow from the surface because the stem cells there that will differentiate to the chondroblast. As they divide and secrete more matrix, then they will be growing from what? From the outside. They also grow from within. The mature ones, which are called the chondrocyte, the mature one, they also can divide small. So one, they become two, they become four. So they can also grow from within. Because the chondrocyte has this ability to divide. Let me just do the bones, then you appreciate that one. Fine. Now, this is a bone. The ends of bones are called epiphysis. The shaft of the bone is called diaphysis. So this is epiphysis. The shaft is called diaphysis. Between the epiphysis and the diaphysis, there's the metaphysis. The metaphysis contain here at this point, I'm going to call it, at this point, fibrocartilage is the strongest. Our bone not developed from cartilage. So between the epiphysis and the diaphysis, there's what we call the metaphysis. The metaphysis contains the epiphyseal. Now let's call it epiphyseal plate. Contain epiphyseal plate. The metaphysis contain epiphyseal plates, or what we call the Goldward plate. Then connective tissue that surround bones is called periosteum. So there's a periosteum. So you see. Then the one that lines the medullary cavity is called the endosteum. So there's periosteum and the endosteum. The important point that you need to know with the periosteum and endosteum is this. They contain stem cells. They contain stem cells. So they aid in growth and what? Repair. In fact, when they do amputation, they don't strip off the periosteum. Because bones are highly vascularized. They have a lot of blood vessels. Within the periosteum too, they are blood vessels. And not only blood vessels, they are stem cells. Bone cells are there. And those bone cells are very, very important when it comes to bone repair. Now, when you look at the bone, about 35% of bone is organic and about 65% is inorganic. The organic parts definitely are the component of connective tissues. There are bone cells, there's a ground substance, and there's a collagen fibers. Of course, collagen fibers, type 1. If the body can produce this type 1, of course, then you're going to have a brittle bone. The inorganic component which gives the bone its hardness is what we call the hydroxyapatite crystal. So calcium phosphate base minerals giving bone its hardness. So to have these minerals. Now the bone cells, we have the osteoprogenitor cells. Those are the stem cells. They are found in the periosteum and the endosteum. So they differentiate to form osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are the immature bone cells. They secrete the matrix. The matrix are the ground substance and the fibers. Then after secreting the ground substance and fibers, then there will be deposition of minerals. Then those minerals will give the bone their strength. Osteoblasts, when they mature, they become osteocytes. And they are located within the what? A small space. They have what we call the lacuna. They have osteoclasts. Just like chondroclasts, they are from monocytes. And they break down. They break down the bone matrix. So when I say they break down bone matrix, look at, for example, you know that your bone stores calcium. It's from minerals. So let's say the calcium level in your blood is low. The osteoclast activity is going to increase. It breaks down the bones. In fact, as we are sitting there or whatever you are standing, whatever you are doing, bones are being broken down. Bones are being what? Formed. Osteoblasts are working. Osteoclasts are working. Because the bone cells that you had 2 weeks ago is not the bone cell that you still have now. So there's always what? Breaking and what? Forming, breaking, forming, breaking and forming. So that is one is going on. That one is going on. That one is going on. So osteoblast is breaking. Osteoblast is producing the bone, the matrix. Osteoclast is what? Is breaking down the bones. This one is just about, don't worry about these things. Then when it comes to bones, we can classify bones into two. There's a compact bone. There's a part here. There's a compact bone. In fact, if you look at the bone, about 80% of it's compact bone. So that's the one that gives the stem cells what strength. Then there's the trabecular bone. You see these ones here, the ends of the bone. These are the trabecular bones. This is the part, there's those small spaces is where we have the bone marrow. The red bone marrow, where blood cells are formed. You see, this is a compact bone, and this is a spongy bone. Oh, I think if I use the word spongy more, people will appreciate it more. So that's the spongy bone. We contain bone marrow. So, for those of you who say that the Bible says we should not eat blood, if you are enjoying the epiphysis of bone, is whatever you are enjoying is actually blood. You are eating blood because within there we have those what blood cells. Okay. The medullary cavity will contain yellow bone marrow, of course, which can be metabolized to get what? Energy. Now, the basic structural and functional unit of a bone is called osteon. The osteon is a basic structure and functional unit of a compact bone. It's called osteon. So what is an osteon? You see this one. This is an osteon. From here to here is an osteon. So let me just write a sketch like this. So you have it here. So osteon is something like this. So there's a central cavity. The central cavity is what we call the central canal or Havisian canal. Then you have the bone matrix. You see, form a concentric ring, like I've done here. Form a concentric ring. Those concentric rings is what we call the lamina. We call it what? The lamina. The lamina are the concentric ring of the calcified matrix surrounding the central canal. So this thing here, the matrix is what? The ground substance and fibers. And they are calcified. That means they are the position of minerals that is moving around. Okay. Then, of course, there will be in between, there will be bone cells. You see, they are showing us bone cell. So in this image here, this one here, this side here that I'm showing are the lamina. Then there's going to be bone cells. So you're seeing the bone cells like this. So bone cells like this, the bone cells. Then these bone cells, these ones here, the osteocytes, the mature ones, bone cells. Then another bone cell located here. And there are tiny gaps connecting them. Canal. In anatomy, tiny canals are called canaliculi. So that is how typically that's how a compound bone looks like. It's not anything magic. So with the bone, you have these things: osteon. So the basic structure and functional unit of a bone is called what? An osteon. An osteon is basically the bone matrix. I'm repeating again, the bone matrix, forming a concentric ring around a central canal. Within the central canal, there are blood vessels and what? And there are nerves. You know that bones are surrounded by periosteum. A periosteum also contains what? Blood vessels. Those blood vessels are connected to the blood vessels within the osteon. The way they connect is perpendicular. So you see these ones here. We call them the proliferating or the Volkmann's canal. So this is how we actually looking at the bone like this. So this is an osteon. These things that you are seeing here are the osteocytes. Those plenty lines that you are seeing here are the canaliculi. So you remember the bone is calcified. The bone is calcified. So those tiny canals are how nutrients are able to exchange between one osteocyte and another osteocyte. So this is how a bone looks like. So you have these plenty osteon, which are arranged in according to the direction of the bone, and so that is that. And these ones here, you see, these are the Volkmann's canal, connecting one osteon to another osteon. You connect one osteon to another osteon, then also connect the periosteum to the osteon. So that's what they do. I'm not going to talk about all these things, not all these things. Now, how do bones form? The process of bone formation is called ossification. And there are two types. The first one, which occurs around the 5th week to the 6th week, is called intramembranous ossification. In intramembranous ossification, is very, very simple. Mesenchymal cells, mesenchymal connected embryonic connective tissue, we said they give rise to all the tissues in the body. So you have mesenchymal cells that will differentiate to osteoblasts, and the osteoblasts will produce the bone matrix. So that is intramembranous ossification. The flat bones of the skull and the clavicle, that is how they are formed. That's how they are formed. And in fact, the clavicle is the first bone to start to ossify. So that is intramembranous ossification. Then the one that is very, very important is what we call the endochondral ossification. Endochondral, endo within cartilage, chondro cartilage. So endochondral calcification, bones are formed from where? From cartilage model. So this diagram here is just trying to explain that. So initially we have hyaline cartilage. And the hyaline cartilage, we know that apart from the articular cartilage, they are covered by a perichondrium. We know what the perichondrium that it has those stem cells. So what happens is that the perichondrium or the diaphysis become periosteum. So this perichondrium, the diaphysis, this part here, become what? Periosteum. Remember, there are cartilage cells here. So what is going to happen is that the chondroclasts, they are going to break the bones. They are going to break the cartilage. They are going to break what? The cartilage. And as they break the cartilage, see that the blood vessels will be sending what? All the materials inside, sending what? Remember, there's a periosteum. So periosteum contains what? The stem cells of what? The bones. So they'll be moving. So while cartilage kind of breaking the bones, breaking it, then the osteoblasts will be secreting what? The bone matrix. So the place that was originally cartilage is now gradually being replaced by what? Bones. And it's always occurs first in the what? In the diaphysis. We call it the ossification center, primary ossification center. Then just after you have birth or during the early stages of life, you have another center being formed at the epiphysis. So that one to look at what is happening. Cartilage is being replaced by what? Bones. But what I want you to note here is that at the ends of the bone and between the epiphysis and the diaphysis, you always will have cartilage there. You always will have cartilage there. The cartilage that you find here, which we are calling the epiphyseal plate, as long as it is there, you are going to grow in height. As long as you are there, you are going to grow in what? In height. The moment they close, they become epiphyseal line. Then you stop growing. And here, this is an image of the epiphyseal plate. So imagine, if I'm to make a sketch, imagine that there's a epiphyseal plate like this. So it's like this. This is the epiphysis part, and this is the diaphysis part. And we have cartilage This side here is a cartilage. It's a hyaline cartilage. And that's what we are doing here. So here, what we are saying is that on top, this part here, you have a lot of cartilage there. They are just there. They are resting. Then just below it, you have cartilage cells that are then dividing plenty, proliferating. Then you have another one here where they are increasing in size. Now, when they increase in size, then you realize that they become choke. Let me put it that way. Nutrients are not able to diffuse well. Then the cartilage begins to die. Then the chondroclast will begin to break down the bone. They begin to break down the cartilage. As they are breaking down, then they will be replaced by bones. So you see that this part here then will be replaced by bones. So you see that this side will be increasing and becoming bone. Then the thing is moving up. Now, because the cartilage are also dividing. So while this side is becoming bone, then this side too is the cartilage is also dividing. So you see that in the time that you are growing in height, that's what is happening. That's what is happening. But when you are nearing, let's say, 18 years or 21 years, then you realize that these ones the cartilage cells will no longer be dividing. So then you have bones. Then eventually there will be no cartilage. There will be no cartilage. And when there is no cartilage, then it means that you cease growing. You can't grow tall again. You can't grow tall again. So if you look at the image, let me show you an image so that in an X-ray, if you look at this one, look at an X-ray here. Now, if you look at this X-ray here, you see it is not fracture. This one is not a fracture. This is epiphyseal plate. This is cartilage. This is cartilage. When they close, they become this. Become a epiphyseal line. The time for each bone to ossify, the time there's for all the bones, there's the time for what? Ossification. And that's what they use in radiology to even determine someone's what? Age. Because all the bones will be on a time. Even the amount of carpal bones, the 8 carpal bones, each of them has a time to ossify. So when you know the exact time that this particular bone ossify, then of course you can deduce someone's what? Age. And this thing that I'm talking about, that is really what happens when someone has an injury. Then when someone has injury. So there's a fracture. There's a black cross. You understand? Then you have a cartilage being what formed. Then they will replaced by what? Bones. So that's what goes on even in what? Repair. So where the cartilage model is replaced by bone is what referred to as endochondral what? Ossification. Then I also made a point that bone modeling and bone remodeling are going on. In bone remodeling, your old bones are being replaced by new bone cells. So that's what is happening. So that one will maintain bone strength, repair micro damages. So you see that when you exercise, the osteoblasts, they increase their activity and the deposition of more minerals. And your bone becomes strong. So those people in Thailand where they do some kind of boxing, you realize that if they hit you with their legs, it is like someone is using what? A chisel on you. Then there is also bone modeling, which is going on, where the bones are what? Are reshaped. Where the bones are being what? Reshaped. It is due to this one. You see, there's what we call what? Osteoporosis. And what is the osteoporosis? One usually very common in post-menopausal age, where estrogen level drops down. And when estrogen level drops down, what happens is that the rate at which the bones are being broken down is faster than the rate at which they are being repaired. In other words, osteoclast activity outpaces osteoblast activity. Then you have a bone that is what? That is very weak. Bone that is very, very weak. In rickets and osteomalacia is what happens in adults. Rickets is what happens in children. And all is due to deficiency in calcium or vitamin D. Vitamin D, in the sense that vitamin D is essential in calcium absorption. So where there's poor mineralization. There's poor mineralization. Are bones not developed from cartilage? Yes, bones are developed from cartilage, a process that we call endochondral ossification. Yeah, when I say fetus, it's entirely, I'm not saying that maybe the way I said it. What I'm saying is that when you are growing, when you are growing inside even at this point in time, I may not even use the word fetus, but then because the term fetus is after 8 weeks. So, but I told you that ossification, bone formation begins around the 5th week and the 6th week. So at that point in time, I think we can